At first glance, they look adorable, but they're silent, fast, lethal predators. Few people realize that beneath that small body hides one of the most efficient hunters on the planet. Today we dive into the hidden world of weasels and stoats, two creatures so similar that many people confuse them, yet so different that each deserves its own story. What makes them unique? Why have they been feared, and even admired? And most importantly, why should you get to know them before it's too late? To truly understand weasels, we first need to be clear about what we mean when we use that name. In scientific terms, a weasel belongs to the genus Mustela, part of the mustelid family. And within that family, they're not alone. Otters, badgers, martens, minks, wolverines. They're all relatives. But here's where things get tricky. The genus Mustela also includes stoats, ferrets, and the European mink. Over time, that's led many people to use the word weasel for any small carnivore with a long body and jittery movements. Although the genus Mustela includes around 16 species, only about 10 actually carry weasel in their common name. Among them are the least weasel, the Siberian weasel, the Malay weasel, and the tiny pygmy weasel. And if you're wondering where that curious scientific name, Mustela, comes from, the answer lies in Latin. Mus means mouse, and tellum means javelin. A perfect description for these elongated, lightning-quick creatures, like little living spears. Weasels show a striking range in size. In fact, the smallest member not only of the genus Mustela, but of the entire order of carnivores, is the least weasel, a miniature predator, swift and silent, yet deadly. As in many animal species, males tend to be a bit longer and heavier than females. However, beyond that difference, there aren't many physical variations between the sexes. Both share that elongated body, those short legs, and that piercing gaze that sets them apart. As for their distribution, weasels are found mainly in the Northern Hemisphere, Europe, Asia, North America, and parts of Northern Africa. South America is a notable exception, as it's the only region in the Southern Hemisphere where stable populations have become established. As with many other animals, human intervention has left its mark. Today, weasels can be found in regions where they were never native, either as exotic pets or as invasive species. For centuries, their singular look and restless behavior have drawn attention, and in recent years, their presence in homes has increased. However, living alongside humans has brought unforeseen consequences. Introducing weasels into habitats outside their native range has triggered true ecological disasters. In regions like Australia and New Zealand, where ecosystems weren't prepared for such an efficient predator, weasels became invasive species. The result? Entire populations of native birds and rodents in decline, some pushed to the brink of extinction. Because weasels aren't just clever, they're incredibly efficient. Their diet relies largely on small mammals like mice and voles, and their slim, flexible bodies let them slip easily into burrows, cracks, and narrow tunnels, pursuing their prey into the tightest corners. In fact, even though a weasel is bigger than a mouse, it can get into almost any place a mouse can squeeze through. That's how precise an evolutionary tool their body truly is. That voracious appetite for rodents is, in fact, one of the reasons some people value weasels. For many, they're a natural solution to pests, a living alternative to traps and poisons. In certain places, weasels, ferrets, and minks have even been used as hunting tools to clear rats or mice from warehouses and barns. It's not uncommon to see them in action, slipping with precision into corners no human could reach. But in the wild, weasels aren't limited to mice. They also hunt frogs, lizards, snakes, birds, eggs. And when they set their sights on it, they can bring down prey much larger than themselves, like rabbits or chickens. That boldness has made them enemies of many farmers, who see them as pests rather than allies. Their reputation for entering coops and attacking poultry has led to the ironic conclusion that they, too, often need to be controlled. Despite their combative spirit, weasels are far from apex predators. Their small size makes them vulnerable, and they must always stay alert to much bigger threats. Coyotes, foxes, wolves, cats, both domestic and wild raptors, and even other mustelids like the wolverine. For a weasel, the world is a constant battlefield, where any day could be the last if they don't move with care. For such a small creature, winter is one of the greatest trials of its life. In the northern hemisphere, where many weasels live, winters are long, harsh, and frozen. Temperatures drop below zero, and food grows scarce. Survival becomes a daily feat. But weasels, true members of a family of survivors, have their own tricks. One of the most remarkable is their seasonal coat change. As the cold sets in, many species shed their reddish-brown fur and replace it with a white coat, thicker, warmer. This winter mantle not only shields them from wind and snow, it also grants perfect natural camouflage. In a world blanketed in white, a weasel in its new coat is almost invisible to both its prey and its predators. Their adaptability doesn't end there. Weasels can live in a wide variety of habitats: open grasslands, temperate forests, rocky areas, tropical jungles, and even urban environments like parks and backyards. They make use of any shelter available: underground burrows, tree hollows, caves, and even nests abandoned by other species. Many weasel species are solitary by nature, especially the males. And beyond that, they are intensely territorial. Males usually range over larger areas, not because of abundant food, but to increase their chances of encountering multiple females. The borders of their domains aren't marked with fences or fights, but with chemical signals: secretions from anal glands, skin rubs, urine, and feces. An invisible language, yet perfectly understood by others of their kind. For males, territory size is directly tied to access to females. For females, however, territory is defined by a different priority: food. The more resources they can find, the greater their chances of feeding their young. As in any successful species, reproduction is an essential part of the weasel's life cycle. The least weasel, for example, breeds between April and late July. After mating, males and females go their separate ways, and the female takes on all responsibility. Gestation lasts between 34 and 37 days. The kids are born blind, deaf, and hairless. They are completely vulnerable, but their development proceeds surprisingly fast. Weasel pup development is swift and striking. By day 4, their bodies begin to be covered with a pale, fine coat. Around day 10, the classic pattern starts to form: a dark back and a light belly. At 3 weeks old, the young already have baby teeth and begin to sample solid food. And they don't just eat. They also start practicing their first hunting movements, imitating their mother. Even so, mother's milk remains essential until 8 weeks, at which point they're almost ready to begin an independent life. By 12 weeks, most separate from their mother and from the place where they were born. In terms of sexual maturity, they reach it quickly, between 3 and 4 months of age. However, males usually take longer to reproduce successfully, generally not until they're over a year old. Under ideal conditions, a least weasel can live up to 9 years. But in the wild, life expectancy is shorter, around 7 years. When it comes to communication, weasels are more expressive than many people think. They communicate through body language, but also with very specific vocalizations. They whistle when they feel threatened, squeal when they're scared, or emit a sharp call during courtship. Mothers and their young recognize each other through trills, chirps, and squeaks that convey everything from alarm to affection. The relationship between weasels and humans has been complicated. We've already seen how their hunting prowess can make them allies or enemies, depending on place and circumstance. But beyond the physical world, weasels have also left their mark on culture. In many parts of the world, they've been seen as symbols of good luck. In others, as omens of misfortune. In modern times, their image often represents clever opportunism, the cunning of the small who dare to challenge giants, the brave underdog who never gives up. Within this family, one very close relative stands out: the stoat. Taxonomically speaking, it's essentially a larger weasel. Its scientific name is Mustela erminea, and it belongs to the same genus as most of the species we call weasel. In English, it's called a stoat when it wears its brown coat, and an ermine when it adopts its distinctive white winter fur. The origin of the word stoat is uncertain. Some linguists have proposed links to Germanic terms like Old Dutch stout, meaning brave or strong, or even Gothic stautan, meaning to push. However, these theories haven't been confirmed. For its part, ermine comes from Old French hermine, and it may be related to the word Armenia, since in the Middle Ages people believed this curious animal came from that region of the world. Curiously, in some places where common weasels don't exist, such as Ireland, the stoat is simply called a weasel. And in North America, many people know it as the short-tailed weasel. Its natural range is broad, stretching across all of Eurasia and much of northern North America. Like several other species in the genus Mustela, the stoat has been introduced to different parts of the world, often for reasons that seemed logical, at least at first. One of the best-known cases is New Zealand, where it was released on a large scale to control runaway rabbit and rodent populations. But the plan didn't go as expected, because the stoat proved to be too effective a predator. Numerous native bird and reptile species, unprepared to face such a stealthy and aggressive hunter, were quickly pushed to the brink of extinction. Yet another example of how a poorly calculated human solution can have devastating consequences for ecosystems. But the bond between humans and the stoat goes far beyond ecology. For centuries, its fur has been an object of admiration and desire, especially the winter coat, dense, soft, and snow-white. This winter mantle, as a linguistic curiosity, in Spanish there aren't specific terms for different stoats by sex or age, so it's common to refer to them simply as macho, hembra, or cría. In English, however, there are particular terms. Males are called jacks, females jills, and the young kits. Currently, about 34 subspecies of Mustela erminea are recognized. The nominal subspecies is Mustela erminea, the northern stoat, and other notable variants include M.E. estiva, widely distributed in Europe and Central Asia, M.E. hibernica, the Irish stoat, M.E. cane, a Siberia-Kamchatka subspecies, and M.E. stabilis, the British form. All show slight differences in size, coat tone, and other local adaptations. Yet they retain the essence of the stoat, a small, adaptable mustelid with a significant impact on both nature and human history. In terms of physical appearance, the stoat closely resembles the least weasel, but with notable differences. It's significantly larger, with sturdier proportions and movement. While least weasels measure between 6.7 and 12.8 inches, stoats easily exceed that range. They also show marked sexual dimorphism. Males can be up to 25% larger than females. Compared to the common weasel, the stoat has a longer tail relative to its body, a more elongated skull, and a narrower brain case. It also features more prominent teeth and bony structures, making it an even better equipped hunter. True to its mustelid heritage, the stoat retains many classic traits: 5 toes on each foot and non-retractable claws used for digging, climbing, and gripping prey firmly. And if you ever cross paths with one, its coat can give you a clue about the season. In summer, it sports a reddish-brown back and a white belly, shorter and somewhat coarse to the touch. In winter, by contrast, it transforms into a pure white mantle, denser and softer, ideal for blending into the snow. But there's one detail that doesn't change with the seasons: the black tip of its tail. That dark mark is one of the clearest ways to tell it apart from the weasel, whose tail is shorter and uniform, without that distinctive black tip. As a consequence of their white winter coat, winter becomes the prime trapping season for fur trappers, since the contrast with the environment makes them easier to spot. To adapt to these changes, stoats molt twice a year. Once in spring, when they shed the white mantle, and again in autumn, when they prepare for snow. And as is characteristic of mustelids, the stoat is a tireless predator with a varied menu. Its main food is small rodents, but it also hunts fish, amphibians, birds, insects, rabbits, and even the occasional reptile. In the United Kingdom, the British stoat is well known for its skill at hunting rabbits. But in New Zealand, its predatory instinct has become a serious problem. There, this introduced hunter has wreaked havoc among endemic birds that didn't evolve alongside mammalian carnivores. The most alarming case is the kiwi, a small, nocturnal, flightless bird, now being decimated by stoats, ferrets, and other invasive predators. Of course, even the stoat has enemies. Raptors, large terrestrial carnivores like foxes or wolverines, and even diseases such as rabies or tuberculosis, all pose constant threats. In terms of territorial behavior, the stoat follows the same pattern as other weasels. Males dominate larger areas, marked with strong chemical signals. And when diplomacy fails, violence is how boundaries are enforced. Mating occurs between spring and the summer solstice. As in many species of the genus Mustela, the female raises the young alone. The male does not take part in rearing. Survival, as always in the mustelid world, depends on cunning, strength, and fierce independence. Weasels and stoats don't just survive, they dominate. With stealth, intelligence, and almost surgical precision. They're the kind of predator that doesn't need to roar to command respect. And yet, we know so little about them. Now I'll ask you, did you know all these curiosities about the stoat and the weasel? What other small animal do you think deserves a spot on the channel? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to keep exploring the wildest, most fascinating, and often unknown side of the animal world. Because every species, no matter how small, reminds us of something essential: that nature is full of wonders, if we know how to stop and look. See you next time.